Hey, what's going on, guys? What's happening? YouTube, good morning, everybody. You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. I just got my morning coffee, and we've been talking a lot about labor shortages recently. I just sat in Dunkin' Donuts drive-through for 20 minutes to get a large hot coffee with cream. Only two cars in front of me. I think I only saw one or two people working inside. So yes, I think we're all feeling the effects of these labor shortages. But we're not going to be talking about labor shortages in today's video. We're going to be talking about Chicago once again requiring masks in all indoor settings. This particular article comes to us from the Chicago Reader, and I'm sorry, the Chicago Eater, and it's titled "Chicago Once Again Requires Masks to Eat Indoors at Restaurants." And again, this isn't just for restaurants. This is for all indoor settings. So common areas of condo buildings, restaurants, bars, grocery stores, pretty much everywhere. I'm sort of surprised, but at the same time, I'm not shocked. It's amazing how quickly things change. Back in July, everybody was feeling optimistic. People were, rescheduling weddings. People were planning trips. People were kind of looking forward to heading back to work in the fall. I know some people want to work remotely forever, but a lot of people were excited about getting back. Kids, parents were excited about their kids going back to school. I think even a lot of kids were excited to go back to school. It's been so long, excited to go back, see their friends, quit the remote learning, which I don't think was pleasant for too many people. But I'm kind of surprised to see Chicago once again imposing mask mandates. We had the Chicago Smokeout, big concert in Chicago a few weeks ago. Most recently, Lollapalooza, 100,000 people packed into a park, listening to music, drinking. And we keep seeing articles about how it wasn't a super spreader event, but it's interesting how a week or two after Lollapalooza, they're requiring masks again. Here's kind of an interesting thing. They keep talking about the case numbers. We've had over 200 cases, but isn't that the point of the vaccines, right? We don't really care about cases as long as people aren't hospitalized and aren't dying. I believe our ICUs are only at about 65% capacity, which isn't really a dangerous level. So cases seem to be kind of a weird metric to go off of. Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot seems to do everything wrong at every turn, and this seems to be another instance of this. An interesting fact, we've actually had twice as many people die this week from gun violence and shootings as we had from COVID. Yet we're not flooding the streets with police to stop the gun violence, and we're not mandating that everybody walk around with bulletproof vests, even though twice as many people have died from gun violence as have died of COVID in the past week. I don't even really know where to start here. This is kind of silly. Governor Pritzker has not issued a similar mandate for the entire state of Illinois. So once you get outside of the city of Chicago proper, these rules aren't in place. So let's think about this. I actually have a friend who's supposed to be having a wedding this Saturday. The the masking mandate goes into effect Friday. They're really disappointed. I really don't feel like sitting in a mask the whole time, although this whole thing is kind of a charade, right? Like at a wedding, I imagine if you walk around with a bottle of beer or you walk around with an appetizer in your hand, you're now eating or drinking and you don't have to wear a mask. But I can't imagine people want their wedding photos of the reception to be a bunch of masked people. If I were planning a wedding, I would plan it outside of the city of Chicago because you're less likely to get mandates like this. If I'm not too far from getting out of the city and into the suburbs, if I'm going out to eat or going to an event, I'll just leave Chicago and go do it elsewhere. This doesn't seem to be good for Chicago restaurants. Chicago restaurants, bars, pretty much the entire hospitality industry has been struggling. A lot of them have gone out of business. A lot of people were excited to get back to work. We're starting to have concerts come back and things like that. And then they bring this mask mandate again. I was thinking about bringing my team to a marketing conference in Chicago here in the next couple months in the fall. Definitely not going to do it at this point. Not only because of masks and I don't want to be in a mask 8 hours a day at a conference, but what are the chances that this event's going to wind up being canceled or shut down? There were two concerts I was planning on going to in Chicago in the coming weeks. Definitely not going to be buying tickets to concerts. And that's one of the bad things about this hee-haw, herky-jerky back and forth that we're going through right now is businesses don't want to continue to reinvest. They don't want to plan events. People don't want to buy tickets to events if they think that there's a chance of it either being canceled or that they're going to wind up having to wear a mask through the event. And I'm seeing kind of two different kind of common reactions to this. So one reaction is Lori Lightfoot is a fucking joke. This is terrible. This whole thing is a charade. The idea that we're going to wear a mask, for the first 15 feet into a restaurant and then go sit down at a table and take the mask off. And then every time the server comes over to talk to us, we're going to put our mask back on. I mean, you're not supposed to be taking masks on and off. You're not supposed to be touching the mask. And if anybody thinks that you're going to be sitting there without a mask, eating and drinking and spitting and talking and breathing, and then the second that the waitress comes over and you put a mask on your face, that all these particles of your spit and stuff in the air are just going to immediately dissipate and everybody's protected by the mask, it is kind of a silly idea. So we'll get into this article in a minute. I know New York's mask mandate officially went into effect yesterday. You've got a couple businesses saying, or I'm sorry, not mask mandate, vaccine mandate went into effect yesterday. You got a couple businesses saying they're going to defy it. Here's one of the interesting things. There is no medical exemption. So personally, I think you should have medical and religious exemptions. I know a lot of people think religious exemptions shouldn't be a thing or they'll be abused. Fine. Even if we don't allow for a religious exemption, if somebody has MS, if somebody has Guillain-Barré syndrome, if somebody has recently undergone cancer treatments and is advised by their doctor not to get vaccinated because of that, maybe they shouldn't be out in a public setting in the first place. But assuming that, somebody, for whatever reason, allergies, anything else, is unsafe to get vaccinated, we're pretty much locking them out of society. But there are a few interesting exemptions. So in New York, if you are a performer, you're a singer, you're a guitar player, you're playing in a bar, you're a band, and you're from out of town, you are exempt. So you can bring somebody in from out of state, have them travel from out of state and come play at your bar. They don't have to be vaccinated, and they can bring their friends, their groupies, and a crew with them, and they don't have to be vaccinated either. Same thing with like athletes and sports teams and really any type of performer. It seems silly, right? Like if we're so concerned about COVID is so dangerous that everybody has to be vaccinated. We have to take this drastic step of infringing on people's autonomy over their own bodies. But, if we want to see Stevie Nicks perform and she's not vaccinated, well, we can't pass that up. We have to bring Stevie Nicks in and let her be in the bar unvaccinated, eating and drinking between sets among the patrons. Just seems kind of silly. I'll be curious to see how New York's thing goes over. Without further ado, let's get into this article. So this one again from the Chicago Eater. Chicago once again requires masks to eat indoors at restaurants. The city's mask mandate returns Friday to bars and restaurants. Another thing you got to wonder about, if we're at these dangerous levels, you would think you would impose it immediately. Why wait until Friday? It's kind of interesting. Really, even at the very, very beginning of COVID, we knew things were going to lock down, but they made sure to put off the lockdown 3 or 4 additional days so that the St. Patrick's Day weekend could happen. And I was downtown Chicago St. Patrick's Day, the day before the lockdowns were first imposed, when COVID was first kicking off, and it was insane. There were people drinking in the streets. The bars were packed. I mean, it was nuts. But Chicago wanted to make sure they got that tax revenue from St. Patrick's Day, and that all the businesses made their money. And again, if this is so dangerous, is it really worth keeping things open so that we can get that tax money from St. Patrick's Day? Kicking off the article, Chicago diners and bar patrons will once more be required to wear facial coverings regardless of their vaccination status while dining indoors, according to a city news release. The mandate begins Friday, and I kind of got myself sidetracked. So what I was initially saying was, you see a lot of people saying Lori Lightfoot is a joke. This is nothing but theater. This is so stupid. And then you see another crowd of people who, rather than getting mad at the government for imposing these arbitrary, stupid, kind of pointless rules, people are getting mad at the unvaccinated people. They're like, thanks a lot, unvaccinated people. This is why we can't have nice things. If everybody would have just gotten vaccinated, this would have all been over. I think we all know none of that is true. Vaccinated people can also get and spread COVID. I think the idea that people I think that's part of the problem, is people pushing this idea that vaccines are 100% foolproof and kind of overselling the vaccines, because then people go out feeling safe. They go out in big crowds and things like that, and then they're shocked when they get COVID later. Yes, vaccinated people can get COVID too, and there's some recent research coming out that they have just as high viral loads and viral levels as people who are unvaccinated. So, I think it's pretty much an accepted idea at this point that the vaccines are good in that they keep you from winding up in a hospital or dying. They're not quite as good at stopping the spread. But it's kind of funny when people are getting mad at unvaccinated people, when really they should be getting mad at Lori Lightfoot and the city of Chicago for imposing these rules for seemingly no reason. The news comes as COVID-19 numbers powered by the Delta variant surge nationwide. Here's another interesting thing. So there's not actually a test for the Delta variant. So I saw the Department of Health in Texas said something to the effect of, because the Delta variant is prevalent, if you wind up with COVID, we're going to assume that you have the Delta variant. But I guess, do we really know if people have the Delta variant? The news comes as COVID-19 numbers powered by the Delta variant surge nationwide. Chicago reported an average of 419 daily cases, more than double the standard Mayor Lori Lightfoot set last month when the city instituted its mask advisory. Now, City of Chicago did have a mask mandate up until June, which theirs lasted quite a long while after the suburbs. Lightfoot had told the New York Times that she'd reconsider a mask mandate if daily cases were higher than 200. It must have been a Hispanic or black reporter from the New York Times. I know Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot said she will not do interviews with white reporters. So that's interesting. But Tuesday's announcement strengthens July's advisory to make mask wearing mandatory for those over the age of 2. Coverings can be removed while eating or drinking. The mandate also applies to gyms and shared areas in apartments and condo buildings. From what I've seen on, forums, Reddit, article comments, etc., most people seem to say, it's funny. The people who were kind of calling people conspiracy theorists, who thought a lot of this was nuts, the people who were yelling at people who were kind of against a lot of these strict COVID measures before, are now finally fed up themselves. They're like, I'm over this. I stayed home. I got vaccinated. I'm not following any of this bullshit. I hope other people don't as well. I'm hoping restaurants don't enforce this. We're done. But let's see, it looks like here, was this a tweet? Starting Friday, masks will be required in all indoor public settings as the average number of new cases of COVID-19 in Chicago surpasses 400. Everyone, regardless of vaccination status, will be required to wear a mask indoors in public settings. This mandate includes all indoor public spaces such as bars, restaurants, gyms, common areas, condos, residential buildings, and private clubs. Like previous mask mandates, masks can be removed during certain activities that require it, and in offices not open to the public where you can distance. The new public health order does not include capacity limits at public places, and masking remains optional at outdoor settings where the risk of COVID-19 transmission is lower. Masks are recommended for unvaccinated individuals in crowded indoor settings. Let's see, Chicago Public Health Commission Dr. Allison Awardi stressed that non-vaccinated individuals face the most risk. About 54.2% of people are fully vaccinated in Chicago. No vaccine is 100% effective, and some breakthrough cases, instances of those being vaccinated being stricken with the disease, have been reported. But the vaccine is highly effective, and health experts are urging doubters to make their communities safer by getting vaccinated. The CDC actually, I believe, yesterday came out and said that everybody, initially it was that the immune compromised and older people might need boosters, but I believe at this point, they're saying everybody needs boosters. What is it? I want to say it's 8 months after their initial dose. Restaurants and bars in Chicago have been operating without pandemic restrictions since June, when rumors swirled about renewed mitigations back in July. Restaurant and bar owners worried that the city would bring back capacity limits and social distancing rules. There's no word if any of these restrictions will return. One thing that I think will be interesting to see. So I've heard, I'm not sure if the CDC has officially announced this, but basically at some point the pandemic is going to become an endemic, which means it's just kind of a yearly thing that we're going to deal with forever, like the common cold, like flus. I know I'm not comparing COVID to the common cold or flu, but viruses typically over time tend to get more transmittable but less deadly. So in theory, with everybody getting vaccinated, as well as the virus continuing to morph how most viruses do, at some point this is going to go around a lot in the fall and winter seasons. But it's not going to be deadly for most people. Obviously, people die from the flu, people die from common colds, but it's not going to be a pandemic. But will we still keep a lot of these mandates in place? That'll be interesting to see. Illinois Restaurant Association CEO and President Sam Toia was relieved. The announcement didn't include capacity restrictions. It could have been much worse, he says. He anticipated the mandate and says when he's been at restaurants, he's been wearing a mask. He's hopeful numbers will decline by September. It's funny when you see people talk online. Maybe 6 months ago, a lot of people were like, what's everyone making a big deal about? It's just a piece of cloth. Nobody's taking your freedom. And it seems like now most people are fed up. Reddit seems to be kind of COVID crazy. I see a lot of people like, I'm going to wear a mask forever. I really like not having allergies. I really like not having a cold. A lot of Redditors like to use the line, I'm ugly, but I have really pretty eyes, so I kind of like masks. We should all have to wear masks. The best way to combat this latest surge is for everyone to voluntarily get the free and effective vaccination, Toya says. The city has hosted a few large-scale outdoor events, the Windy City Smokeout and Lollapalooza. Chicago health experts have said neither ended up being super spreaders. Of the 385,000 or so who attended, the city says 203 were infected due to the three-day event. In reality, they have no idea. A lot of people from Lollapalooza come in from out of town, and pretty much most people who are coming are younger and healthy, so they're not going to wind up in the hospital, and they're not going to wind up dead, and therefore they're not going to wind up being tested. So really, we have no idea if it was a super spreader event, although it is interesting that about 2 weeks following Lollapalooza, all of a sudden masks are coming back, right? Several restaurant owners worried that these events would eventually lead to mask restrictions that have harmed their businesses since Governor J.B. Pritzker suspended on-premise dining back in March of 2020. Other cities across the country, New York was the first to have mandated that diners show proof of vaccination. New York's mandate started on Monday. Chicago officials have said they're interested in such a policy, but have remained reluctant to take action. One challenge facing the nationwide policy is that, unlike the state of New York, Illinois currently lacks a vaccine passport. That's actually untrue. Chicago just rolled out, I think it's called the Vax Pass. It's, surprise, surprise, being powered by Experian, who has a history of having their data leaked. Just recently, somebody discovered that the API in their website lets anybody look up anybody's credit score. So Experian is not secure. Also, you have to unlock your credit if your credit is locked to actually verify yourself and get this Vax Pass. And so it's really like a credit reporting agency. I have to turn over my info to them, and they're going to monitor whether I'm vaccinated or not. An interesting thing about New York's vaccine mandate is not only do you have to show your COVID card, but you have your your vaccination card, but you also have to show your ID. And I thought showing ID was racist. Because, according to the Democrats, I'm not picking on a party, both parties suck, but according to the Democrats, black people don't know how to get IDs, and asking for ID is racist. But I guess in a global pandemic, all bets are off. There's still a growing list of restaurants and bar owners that are requiring proof of vaccines to dine at their establishments. Lightfoot praised those restaurants for taking action without requirement. Critics pointed out this was another instance of elected officials failing to lead, forcing hospitality workers to sort out the risk themselves without direction. Okay, and it looks like that's the end of the article. I always like to check for comments because I think they're interesting. We don't have any comments, but I'd be curious to hear what's going on in your guys' city. Is things back to normal? Are they doing vaccine mandates? Are they doing mask mandates? What are things looking like on the ground near you? What do you guys think about this story? Drop a comment down below. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button below. Ring the bell. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.